Welcome to the Disabled Podcast, starring your host, Christian Reitz.
Hot dog! Let's go!
Welcome to the Disabled Podcast, the show that incorporates disabilities with the magic of Disney. Welcome to episode number 6, entitled The Disney Cruise Line, Part 2. Be sure to use our hashtag the Disabled Podcast when sharing this podcast to all social media platforms. Again, that's hashtag the Disabled Podcast when sharing this podcast to all social media platforms. And now, here is your host, Christian Reitz. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Disabled Podcast. Now, in this week's episode, we're going to talk about and continue our series on the Disney Cruise Line. And today, we're going to talk about the excursions you can go on when you book a Disney Cruise Line, as well as the pricing. Now, when I come to talk about the pricing, we're going to talk about the rooms you can purchase when you're on a Disney Cruise Line. So, if you are a family with somebody who has a disability, whether it's a wheelchair, walker, crutches, we're going to tell you all of that stuff and how you can best purchase your room. So we're going to talk today a lot about preferred rooms. So stick around for this episode and we'll tell you exactly what that means. Let's get on with the episode. So now let's talk about some excursions you can go on the Disney Cruise Line. Now, depending on which ship you go on, there might be different excursions. So let's say if you go to like a Mediterranean cruise, a cruise to the Bahamas, whatever, the excursions will change based on the places that you go. So for me and my family, we went to a Disney cruise on the Disney Wonder to Alaska. And that was a few years ago, probably about 7-8 years ago now. And one of the things that I love about Disney is that they are really accommodating. So if you're a family of somebody with a disability, Disney is really some of the best accommodating, they really make some of the best accommodations for your family. So for me, one of the things that I love about the Alaskan cruise was that when you get off the ship, everything that we did, for the most part, was accessible. So some of the things that we did for the Alaskan cruise were like, we saw a lumberjack show. We went whale watching on a accessible whale watching boat. So again, depending on where you go, that's what you'll do. You'll find some excursions on Disney's website based upon the places that you go. So, for instance, you go on a Mediterranean cruise, you might go on 3 different places. Well, in each individual place that you go, you'll be able to do different things and be able to book certain things. And again, the pricing is also different too. So you want to make sure that pricing is one of the biggest factors, as well as if you're a family with somebody who has a disability, you want to make sure that it's also accessible too. Again, Disney Cruise Line will help you with all of that. They really are the best at really accommodating people. So again, you can always go on the website and figure out what are the best things to do. Again, we saw a lumberjack show, whale watching, and there were a few other things that we did that were honestly really accessible. And what's cool is that a lot of the places that you go to as well, when you're not doing an excursion, if you just like walk around the town, a lot of those places will actually, they in the last few years have become more accessible in the places that they stop at. So, for instance, like in Ketchikan, Alaska, like the roads for people in wheelchairs were phenomenal. The sidewalks were paved. It was just perfect. So again, you want to make sure that you talk about accessibility. So you really have to think about accessibility, pricing, and basically, you have to think about also the places where you want to go. So again, depending on the place that you go, when you book a Disney cruise, will determine what's available. Now, one of the things I do not recommend that you do is that you book outside of Disney. What I mean by that is Disney Cruise Line has excursions for you on their website. When you book the trip, they will give you the excursions that you can buy, or that you can choose from to buy. Again, one of the reasons why I say that is because when you book outside of Disney, sometimes what happens is that there might be a delay within the excursion that you do. So say if an excursion is like 3 hours long, but it might be a delay because there's an accident on the road driving to the place where you're supposed to be, it might delay it. And again, ship times do matter. So when you get off the ship, you must know when you're supposed to board the ship again and be back just a few minutes before, probably about 15 minutes before the sail away time from the destination that you're at. But again, if you book through Disney, they will make sure that all the excursions that are available will be within adequate time. So that way, once you're done with one excursion and you're ready to be done for the day, you can come back to the boat and they will not leave without you. So again, always book through Disney Cruise Line. Never book through anywhere else. So now let's talk about Disney Cruise Line pricing as well as the different kind of rooms that you'll find on a Disney cruise boat. Now, there's a few things that you need to know when booking a Disney cruise that will actually affect the price of your Disney cruise, such as the time of year that you book. Maybe it's the length of your cruise, which is one of the main things. Also, what's going to affect it is where you're booking to. So if you're booking an Alaskan cruise, you're booking a Mediterranean cruise, those are some of the things you kind of want to figure out and kind of look at the pricing. Now, for an average stay on a Disney cruise line, that could range from, like for instance, say for the Disney Magic. For the Disney Magic, it would be something like $1,600 to $2,500. Now, again, that's just an estimated Disney cruise price range for 1 to 2 nights for 2 adults in an inside cabin. Now, you're probably thinking, Christian, what's an inside cabin? Well, there's like a few different cabins on a Disney Cruise Line boat. So let me just take you through a little bit of what an inside cabin, an outside cabin, an accessible stateroom. Let me just take you through all the different kinds of staterooms. So for an inside cabin, that's basically like your standard cabin. So that is with no windows to the outside area. The outdoor cabins, and one of the nicer cabins, is one with a balcony. Now, those are typically a little bit higher price because, again, you are looking out over the water. But for me and my family, what we did was we did an accessible stateroom. Now, the accessible stateroom is different in many unique ways. It's a little bit further back in the ship, or sometimes it might be a little bit closer, depending on which ship you're on. And so for us, what we enjoyed about it was there was, not only was there, it was, in a good part of the boat, but also it's a little bit bigger, but it also comes with an accessible shower, accessible bathroom, shower chair, and all the amenities that you need for accommodating a wheelchair, crutches, somebody with a disability. So again, depending on what kind of cabin you want, and also depending on the cruise boat. So, for example, the Disney Wish, which is the newest one, the latest one that is in their Disney Cruise Line fleet, because that is a more updated boat, that might actually cost more because it's a newer boat and they might have newer ports of call with excursions and all that. So again, something like that might be more expensive. Whereas the Disney Wonder is one of their oldest ships. It's probably like one of the top three of the oldest ships. And so those are a little bit more, not necessarily outdated, but those have a little bit more, I guess you could say, outdated stuff. But again, Disney Cruise Line's not really outdated. They always update something from time to time. Again, when booking a Disney Cruise Line, you just have to make sure that you just look at a couple different things. So when booking a Disney Cruise Line, you got to make sure that you take in all these factors that I just described in order to make your Disney Cruise Line experience the best it can be. And again, the Disney website, the Disney Cruise Line website, is the best thing for that. So what you can do is you can always call the Disney Cruise Line, or you can look online and you can book your Disney trip. You can ask questions. They have different areas to ask questions on the website. They have a section for frequently asked questions on the website, so you can make the best decision for your Disney Cruise Line experience. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. There is the Disney Cruise Line Part 2, Episode number 6. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this exciting episode. I hope I've answered some questions for you about what to expect for your Disney Cruise Line if you're looking at booking one. Now, again, you can always go on the Disney Cruise Line website for any questions that you might have, or maybe something I didn't touch on. So again, check out that website and book your Disney Cruise Line today. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this very exciting episode. By the way, if you don't already know, and I know I've made it a point in the last couple episodes, right now, available now, is merchandise for the Disabled podcast. So you can go check out the link in the description box of all the streaming platforms that you're listening to right now, whether that be YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast, and you can go actually purchase merch for the Disabled Podcast that's being released every week. So we try to release like 2 or 3 products, I think mostly 2 products every week, every Thursday. So make sure you go and buy your Disabled Podcast merchandise. And also, be sure to go like the Facebook page. That's where you can get all the updates for future episodes and for some exclusive stuff that you can't find anywhere else. Well, that's all the time I have for today, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see ya
Real soon.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Disabled Podcast. Don't forget to use the hashtag the Disabled Podcast when sharing this podcast to all of your social media platforms. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see ya real soon.